We're here at the J.P. Morgan Healthcare Conference in San Francisco, and joining me in the studio is Scott Jackson. He is the CEO of Celator Pharmaceuticals. Scott, great to see you.
Thank you for having me.
So Scott, the CEO, you've got some exciting things. You've got a product in trials looking to come to market. Let's talk first about the product, and then I kind of want to shift gears and talk about the patient journey and how your product is going to help save lives.
Absolutely, and again, I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Celator is a cancer-focused pharmaceutical company. Our lead drug, we call it VYXEOS. VYXEOS is a combination of two drugs called cytarabine and daunorubicin. Those two drugs are the current standard of care for patients with a form of blood cancer called acute myeloid leukemia, or AML. With VYXEOS, we've applied our proprietary technology platform to the cytarabine and daunorubicin, and our proprietary technology platform is called CombiPlex. What CombiPlex allows us to do is look at combinations of drugs to see if they exhibit what we call ratio dependency. So what do I mean by ratio dependency? If you had drug A and you had drug B, at one ratio those two drugs may be additive. Those same two drugs at another ratio may be antagonistic, and yet those same two drugs at another ratio could be synergistic. Our technology allows us to look at combinations to see if this ratio dependency exists, and if it does, to identify a synergistic ratio. And I refer to that as kind of step one. Step two is then to take that information, put that synergistic ratio in a drug delivery vehicle so that when the product is administered to a patient, we know that we're delivering and maintaining the ratio, the synergistic ratio, for a prolonged period of time. And by doing so, we're looking to improve the clinical benefit. Now, in the case of VYXEOS, we're in the last stages of clinical testing. It's commonly referred to as phase 3, and it's being studied in patients with a form of AML, referred to as high-risk AML. And with the study, we're expecting to have the overall survival, the primary endpoint for the study, later this quarter, the first quarter of 2016. If we're successful and have a positive overall survival benefit, we would be looking to file a new drug application with the FDA in the third quarter of this year. And we will request a priority review, and if we're fortunate enough to get that from the FDA, then we would be looking at a potential approval date in the second quarter of 2017.
So we're hearing all this talk about personalized medicine or precision medicine. Is your product kind of fitting into that category?
It's not personalized in the sense of identifying a specific ratio for each individual patient. What we're looking for is more from a directional point of view. And so we do this extensive, what's commonly referred to as in vitro testing to identify a synergistic ratio. Once we do that, then we confirm those findings in what's called in vivo testing before we bring it into the clinic. What we are doing is being able to take the two drugs that have been the standard of care for essentially 40 years for AML. And what we've seen in our earlier stage clinical testing in phase 2, we've seen that we've been able to improve that clinical benefit. The population that we're studying in phase 3, the results from phase 2, where the median survival went from 6 months with the current standard of care to over 12 months with VYXEOS. And so we're looking to confirm those findings in phase 3.
So AML, what does the typical patient look like?
Yeah, the typical age at diagnosis is in the mid to late 60s. Frequently they present because they're tired, they have fatigue. It's not something where it's necessarily coming in for a specific case, if you will, or a symptom, I should say. And once they're diagnosed, it's important to really get the patient treated quickly because it can rapidly progress if left unchecked. And so when a patient is diagnosed with AML, many times they require hospitalization because they're receiving intensive treatment to try and get rid of the leukemia. But a side effect of that treatment is you're also wiping out the patient's normal blood cells. And so as a result, these patients are typically hospitalized for 4 to 5 weeks. The current standard of care, the treatment is a 7-day continuous infusion. So the patient's walking around hooked up to an infusion pump of the drug cytarabine, and the daunorubicin is on days 1, 2, and 3. We feel we have an advantage with VYXEOS because our drug is a simple 90-minute intravenous infusion on days 1, 3, and 5 only. So a lot more convenient.
So clinicals are looking positive.
We hope so.
Yep. And so tell me what the survival rate today is of these patients being diagnosed with this disease.
Yeah, so the population we're looking at, this high-risk AML group, the literature suggests, and our own clinical trials with that particular control arm, our 6 to 7 months is the median survival. And so, as I mentioned, what we saw was a 12-month median survival with our drug.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you stopping by. I admire the work that you're doing greatly. I wish you all the luck, and hopefully this product comes to market quickly and we can save patients' lives.
Thank you very much for having me.